Hi everybody, today I'm going to be discussing courage in the classroom and why it's so important in today's modern education system. Courage is a word that I spent a lot of time thinking about in terms of how to discuss this because there is different words you can kind of interchange, but the reason I chose courage is because courage is you've come to a decision. You've made your mind up that something needs to change. And in teaching, the easiest thing to do is to keep showing up, doing the same thing again, over and over again, every day, and hoping, thinking that something might change or it might get a little bit better. The quote I like to I think it was down to Einstein that, you keep doing the same thing every day and expecting different results. It's the definition of kind of insanity. And I think that's a little bit what happens in teaching. We keep thinking that things are going to get better when actually, unfortunately, the system we're in at the moment, the place we're in, it is only getting worse. And also another thing that really resonated with me, something that my coach mentioned in one of my trainings I was doing recently, if if you ain't got hope, how can you cope? And I think that was one of the main breaking points for me was realizing that I'd lost the hope. I'd lost the fact that things are going to get better, things aren't going to improve, and that was in my current situation. And I kind of mentally pulled the pin. I realised things are going to get better, and that's why I eventually ended up going off sick with work-related stress and ended up leaving teaching. But I'm sure you already know that. You've been following me for a while. If not, go to episode 1. It's all covered in there. So the courage that I'm talking about with teachers to take is, the easy thing I think I've just touched on is to just keep on doing what you're doing. Many teachers bury their head in the sand, or you hear people say, if you can't stand it, you get out the kitchen. This is just the way it is. When people are putting more and more responsibility, giving you more things to do, well, that's just the way it is. That you've just got to do it. Or what they'll do, they'll try and twist it and make it that it's about you, so you're not a team player. When actually it's got nothing to do with that. It's about the fact that you're starting to recognise that these things are having an effect on you, potentially physically and mentally. So, courage, as I describe it, you just come to that point where something has to change. And for some people, that might well be that they want to leave teaching. There's many teachers leaving the profession. You always hear about that on the news these days. But for many teachers, they love their job. But it's the admin, it's the responsibility part, the Ofsted part, the meetings part, the endless learning walks or work scrutiny. That's the part that, they find the most difficult. That never ending to do list. And that's what we're going to kind of cover today. So here's some of the pain points that come up a lot with people. You're drowning in your planning. You've got that data uplift. There's all that paperwork that you've got to get done. When you decide that, you've had enough, you're going to put yourself first, you can actually start to manage your time better. You're going to feel that less guilt, less stress around it. You can start to lose your passion. Come on, you're feeling disconnected from why you become a teacher. Making that decision that, right, I want to reignite my passion can actually increase your sense of identity and purpose. As many teachers get, you just reduce, so you've reached that point, physical, mental, emotional exhaustion. You just can't take any more. And this can be the point where many teachers realise this is it, something's got to change. And even though it's a positive that they've reached the point that they've realised they've got to change, if we can make a change before that, a long time before that, it can make it a lot easier to make simple changes. But many teachers, me included, you don't know you're burnt out, it's too late. as teachers, we are people pleasers. You know, if someone asks us to do something, our automatic response is yes, even though when you want to say no. And in education, like no other sector or job, I would say, you are constantly being scrutinised. The data's being looked at. Your learning walks, your Ofsteds, your work scrutinies. You're constantly being judged. And over time, this can have a massive impact on teachers. The self-doubt starts to come in, limiting beliefs. You know, you might have had a couple of not very good lesson observations. Then you're on the back foot. You're really doubting yourself. What worked before is not working now. Something that I can certainly resonate with in terms of that one. What do you do when your skill set doesn't really work anymore? Things have changed. But when you've got the courage to say something's got to change, you've got to make a difference, that can be the first step in creating healthy boundaries. Changing the way you think about yourself. Instead of all seeing those negative things, you're starting to think yourself in a bit more of a positive point of view, being a bit more kind to yourself. So when you do decide to something has to change, that courage, you know, it might be something that you just keep to yourself. You know, you don't want to share with your family and your friends. That's not working. You might see yourself as a bit of a failure. To reflection on you. Or you haven't mentioned it at work. Again, there's a lot of stigma. You know, things aren't working at school, things like that. The first things that people think about is, well, am I going to go out on a support plan? You know, again, that's something that nearly happened to me. You know, before I was burnt out, I was, you know, teaching suffered. Then that kind of conversation was mentioned informally, and that knocked me for six because there'd been no discussion beforehand. So people are really reticent to maybe have those conversations with people because they think they're going to, you know, going to be start of the end of their journey. But it doesn't have to be that way. When you take the courage that something has to change, that is the next chapter of your teaching life moving forward. When you reduce your stress and you learn how to reduce your stress, your anxiety, and work through if it's depression as well, that's going to lead to better mental health. You're going to have more energy in the classroom, but also you can have more energy outside of the classroom. For you, for your family, for your friends. At the end of the day, this is a job. And I know people say it's a vocation and like look at it in that sort of woolly way and all that. But the more people are being trapped by the system in a negative way, you know, you actually need to see it. At least in the short term, that's a job. You go in, you do your work, you leave, and then that's your time for your family and your friends. You need to put yourself first. If you've got that energy and you're feeling more positive in the classroom, you're going to be getting better engagement. You're not going to go in to look into doing that planning in a negative way or, oh, what's going to happen today? Oh my God, I've got 10x, they're a nightmare. What? And before you actually get into the lesson, you've already talked yourself into a frenzy. When you're improving your mindset and you're turning that around, you're making that positive narrative, you're going to feel a lot more energetic in the classroom. You're going to be turning up, you know, like you used to do when you first qualified. That's going to boost the student engagement. It's going to boost student outcomes. When the best version of you is showing up, they're going to benefit from that. When you decide you need to make the change, you can look at your long-term career sustainability. You can work on your resilience. The happier you are, the more time you are focusing on you, you're more resilient. You're doing more stuff that you enjoy. You're going to be happier. You can take more knocks. And when you're happier and you're more resilient, you know, you're going to be feeling ill less. A really good way is that I like to think of resilience is this. If you think about it, you've pitched a tent and you've went camping and you've got all your pegs in. You've pegged your tent down, and if the wind's coming up, you know, your tent's going to stay in the same place. Yeah, it might move a little bit, but you've got that resilience. But what happens over time, particularly with burnout, and when teachers are struggling, you know, you'll stop doing the things that you enjoy. So you maybe stop doing any activities during the week. So there's a 10 peg gone straight away. Is on a weekend, you're overwhelmed, you've got all this work to do. So actually spend your weekend doing more. There's another peg gone. You're not really checked in with your friends and your family. There's another peg gone. You're not taking care of yourself. You're starting to put school first, other students first. You're putting your family and friends second. There's another peg gone. You're maybe not taking care of your own health. You're not eating properly. There's another peg gone. And before you know it, you've gone from that really strong base and you be able to cope with all these issues and those strong gears that come along. You've got no 10 pegs anymore. Your tent's going to blow off. And that's normally the stage when people find themselves burnt out. You may be struggling with imposter syndrome. You know, things that worked before aren't working now. You know, you kind of second guessing yourself. I'm not good at this. You know, I'm a crap teacher. I'm useless. And, you know, or maybe you've just kind of started you've just started to become a teacher, kind of NQT, and you think, well, you know, is this for me? Am I right in that? Me been teaching a long time. Something I did, I was teacher Chris, and that was me. There was no separate. I was a teacher, and everything I do was my identity was a teacher. So when that was going tits up and sinking, I felt like crap. I felt like my whole world was caving in. When actually, Chris and the teacher Chris, they've got to be separate. You're not your job, vice versa. You know, and I'd spend a lot of work with the clients who I do, actually looking on that, boosting your confidence. We'll look at how come we improve that self-confidence, you know? And you think as well, if you're confident, if you're happy at work, there's more chance that you're going to be getting promoted. There's more chance that you're going to see that job at that school or that opportunity that you wanted, you've been looking at for a while. You're going to take it. You're going to go for that because you're going to have the confidence to do that. If you're feeling like crap and your confidence is in the gut, or you're struggling, that job might come up. You're probably not going to apply for it. Or if you do apply for it, it probably might be the best application that you put in because it's very overwhelming in your current mind space for what's going on. So it's about giving yourself, you know, permission to, you know, become better. If you don't change anything, you don't make that decision, nothing is going to change. It's like this old saying, isn't it? Nothing changes until you do. Another good one is where your energy goes, you know, your energy flows. So if you're focusing on, oh my God, I hate my job, oh, it's a nightmare, I'm sick of my life, I'm depressed, I'm stressed, if that's all your focus is on that, that's just going to magnify that. It's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger until you can't take it anymore. But when you can change our focus on, yeah, I've acknowledged something's got to change. I'm now going to do something differently. It's actually making progress. Something I was looking at yesterday and it really struck a chord to me. Failure is a term that gets used a lot and bandied about a bit, and particularly in kind of education. But actually, it's kind of a massive term. And I seen something and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Are you feeling backwards or are you feeling forwards? We're all feeling some point something. Nobody's the finished version. And what I really liked about this was, if you're feeling it's something, and then that is making you kind of lean away from it and not do it, then you're kind of feeling backwards. If you're feeling at something, but you actually think, well, you know what, I'm using this as an opportunity to grow, or I didn't do a very good version of that, how could I do it better? Then you're actually feeling forward. And I absolutely loved that. So if you had a lesson observation and it wasn't the best, the feedback maybe wasn't the greatest, I've certainly been there, and you go away and you're feeling really upset about it, and it's playing on your mind, and you just maybe taking it personally, or you then just maybe questioning, do you want to be in teaching any? Well, that's kind of failing backwards. Another way to look at it is, well, actually, yeah, maybe not the best. How could I improve on that? What could I have maybe done differently? What could I, change maybe for next time? That doesn't mean that, if the person who gave the feedback wasn't very nice about that, wasn't professional about it, of course you've got reason to be upset about that. But can you use it for growth? Can you make it, can you take the positives out from it and use it as a step forward? So, to me, courage, it's a really important word. I had to find the courage to realise, well, I can't go on doing this anymore. And for me, it was, I'd just been kind of going through the motions. After the pandemic, a lot of things changed. And but to me, one of the things that I really struggled with was the lack of engagement in the students, the apathy. It's a common word I get from many of the teachers I speak to at the moment, just the apathy. They're not that bothered. It's not like a one thing. It's for me, it was the straw that brought the camel's back. They're just constantly chipping away every single day. You're trying your best. You're working hard. You do, and it just feels like you're not making no difference. You're not making any headway. You're just treading water. And that was eventually I had to make the choice when I realised that my teaching was really struggling. And I went off, signed off on the sick with work-related stress, and it didn't really sink in till weeks or months in that I was just completely burnt out. But then I had to make a decision. It's something that I didn't make quickly, but I had to make the decision. Well, look, I've got a choice here. Do I continue doing what I do? I'd done 21 years, and it wasn't the first time I'd been burnt out. So I knew for me, the best thing I could do was to move on, change something. And that's when I actually come in to retrain as a therapist and a coach. So I went away and I learned the skills I didn't know. I didn't know how to change things around. I didn't know what to do. It's that saying, isn't it? You don't know what you don't know. Whereas going away and retraining, I do have those skills now. And this is why I work with teachers. I work with teachers so they don't have to leave the profession like I did. I've been there. I know exactly how you feel. So by me retraining, having those skills, I can help you make those changes. So you don't have to walk away. You can still do the job you love. So I want to just share, a couple of the clients who I've been with. The first client, typical teacher, people pleaser, found it really hard to set boundaries and said yes to everything. Problem was, she found out was that to-do list was absolutely huge. She could never keep up with the to-do list. It was just getting bigger and bigger every day, which meant she was going home, she was working harder, she was working longer, spend less time with her family, which she felt really guilty about. And then on the weekend, she kept doing the same thing. So she was turning up to work, tired, demotivated. And you can only do that for a short period of time before it really starts to make a change. And she ended up burnt out and signed off from work. Luckily enough, when we're working together, she was able to go through and we went through setting clear boundaries. So, if we looked at kind of starting again, what was important to her? What are her values? And once we covered that, then she was able to set out what matters to her, what doesn't matter to her. And we'll come up with ways, it's not just a case of, no, I'm not doing that. There's ways and means of setting your boundaries out there. So she reclaimed her time. She could use her time for herself. She come up with ways in the workplace of saying no that weren't as blunt as that. You know? Another client completely lost the passion, you know, wondering why are they doing this? Completely demotivated, exhausted. So we kind of went back to basics and we looked at why they got into teaching, what's important to them. And we very quickly found out, you know, that she loves the relationships with the students, loves the teaching part of it, but it was that kind of admin part, you know, the bigger whole school parts that was causing the issue. So we just went through and we highlighted and we come up with all those benefits, all those things why she loves that job. And she's kind of planned her day a week out around those positive things. She also, she's using clear boundaries to set her day, a week, and what's important to her. When she does have to do things that, yes, she's not really keen on or things that she doesn't value, she can do it efficiently and do it as quickly as possible. Or if she needs support, she can get support with that. These small changes made massive, measurable improvements in those staff. So my question to you is, what do you need to change? Do you have the courage? You know, I like to share in the comments if you know, kind of if you can, you know, are you ready to make that change? A lot of people are scared, they don't know how. That's where I was. There was literally nobody out there. If I could have contacted somebody like myself, that would have been my first place to start. What can I do? Where do I go for help and support? I had counselling. I thought it was an absolute waste of time. You're just sitting talking to someone about so over the telephone. I've done it face to face as well. You're just going back over it. You're not looking at what can you change, you know? It's looking backwards. You're not looking forward. But when you have the courage, you're ready to make the change. That is when the progress starts. That is when you go into your next chapter of your life. Taking that courage is your first step towards beating burnout, thriving in your classroom. If you've really enjoyed this video, you liked it, you know, subscribe, share, follow on all of my socials. So, think, have you got the courage? Are you ready to make that change? Have a great day.